I explained hotel playoff penthouse, waiting in the lobby, and then waiting on a reservation, and then the G5 party. So let's start with the playoff penthouse. These are teams that we feel good about. Okay, this is not a prediction or a projection. This is just teams we feel good about as things stand right now in terms of their aspirations to find themselves in the college football playoff. And this is a team that's just been hanging out here for a while. Like, you show up to the playoff penthouse and they're like, oh, good to see you. So glad to have you here. Yeah, make yourself at home. That's my room in the penthouse. That's my bed. Don't touch that. But, like, you're welcome to stay anywhere else. Texas is rolling. They had a bye week. Quinn Ewers went down. Arch Manning spun it. I mean, it is what it is. Red River this week, baby. We say it a lot. Red River. Delete logic from the factors when you try and break down this game. I think you can make a case and, have a pretty strong case for Texas being the most complete team in college football. They are top 5 in terms of points scored and points allowed. I will also say this. Texas got to chill out last week and watch all the madness ensue from week 6 of the college football season. Just because Texas didn't play during the chaos Saturday does not mean they are exempt from madness happening. Oklahoma feels pretty good about their chances every time they line it up with Texas. I think Andy Staples said this yesterday on the Paul Feinbaum show, and I think he was on the money. Oklahoma's not scared of Texas. And I'm not trying to make this a Texas-Oklahoma segment right now, but I'm just saying, if you're Texas fans, if you're a Texas Longhorn football player, like, comfort is the enemy of achievement here. Do not get comfortable. I know you're in the penthouse. I know you got a nice room. Do not get comfortable. Keep a good thing going. Their greatest advantage, in my opinion, is their experience. Quinn Ewers and him coming back for another year, we've seen it throughout college football the last few years. Having a dude at quarterback that's played a lot of football, whether it be J.J. McCarthy, last year, Stetson Bennett, the 2 years prior, that matters, especially in the big spots. Texas, as far as I'm concerned, could drop a game, still feel pretty good about their chances to make the SEC title game and to make the college football playoff and to do some damage when they get there. So Texas, this is not a ranking, but Texas right now, the best team in the sport, most complete team in the sport, and they are very firmly in the playoff penthouse. College football sickos, baby, it's our time. Glad to have you here. Make sure you are subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. We are just, knocking on the doorstep of 200K subs. We appreciate you subscribing and being part of this college football community. The Hard Count brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. We are blazing hot right now. Fade or follow, it's totally up to you. I would follow. Use code HARDCOUNT, $5 and lineups gets you $50 in promo funds, y'all. This is not a drill. This is real life, okay? We have a square that we love. Going to tell you about here a little bit later. Has to do with the Ohio State-Oregon game, so lock in for that one. But again, $5 in lineups using code HARDCOUnt. One, supports the show, lets the people at Prize Picks know that we are cooking over here, and also gets you $50 in promo funds to sprinkle across your college football Saturday. We appreciate you being locked in and using that code. Ohio State, man, just belt to behind against Iowa. They're at Oregon this week. And this is the game now where if you're an Ohio State Buckeye fan, you say, okay, this is where we figure out how good we really are. What kind of chops do we really have? This is the team that I think if you were putting it together in like fantasy, or you're putting this team together just in terms of like a video game team, you would not be allowed to have all these players on the same team. To have Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson in the same backfield is nothing but ridiculous. It's just stupid. Emeka Egbuka and a freak show freshman wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith. Someone check his birth certificate. Stupid. I think we are vastly underestimating the impact that Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator at Ohio State is going to have on this football team. Because people question what Will Howard can be. And to some degree, that's fair. Again, I think he is an upgrade from Kyle McCord, from what he brings to the table. But again, it's fair to have that question. What can Will Howard be for you? Chip Kelly got Darren Thomas to a national championship. They didn't win it, but he got him to a national championship. You're saying, who's Darren Thomas? 1, exactly. 2, put some respect on his name. 3, I think Will Howard is better than Darren Thomas, is what I'm trying to say. They're going to get more creative in the run game. They're going to be, I think, more dynamic overall as the season wears on. Chip Kelly is one of the best offensive minds in the sport. We have been, I don't want to say robbed of that while he was a head coach at UCLA, but I don't think it got the shine that it deserves. Watch Ohio State to be a wagon here, moving from October into November into the college football playoff. They're absolutely a playoff team, regardless of how this weekend goes, but I think they're definitely a playoff team. I'll say this too. We told you we had a Prize Pick square we really liked. Code HARDCOUnt, $5 in lineups, $50 in promo funds. I don't know the inner workings at Prize Picks, but I have to believe whoever sets the lines or sets the projections, is out of town this week. Probably on vacation, said, hey, intern, you got it. Intern, what do you want Jeremiah Smith's receiving total to be this week? Y'all, the intern put it at 68.5 receiving yards for the game. Jeremiah Smith will body bag that. He has gone past that total every single week to this point in his infant college career. So again, code hard account, $5 in lineups, $50 in promo funds. I don't know when the individual who comes back to Prize Picks and sets the correct totals will be back. So we're going to take advantage of this while the interns are setting those totals. Jeremiah Smith, the more on 68.5 receiving yards, and just, feel great about that. All right, so keep that rolling. Here's one we'll get pushback on. This will be a good time. Alabama. JD, the playoff penthouse. It was Vandy. Are you kidding? We all saw Diego Pavia do what he did. Heck, we saw it too. We were here in Nashville, kicking ourselves a little bit. We didn't go to the game if we're going to keep it a buck right now. It was Vandy. Yeah, it's also the new playoff. It's also, I think, one of the most talented rosters in college football. It's also, I think, you make a case for one of the most dynamic offenses in college football. And people are down on Alabama, and it surprises me because I'm like, weren't we just sitting here a week ago and saying they were going to be the most difficult offense to stop in the country? Do we not still feel that way? Isn't Ryan Williams still Peter Parker out there in an Alabama uniform? Someone on Twitter sent that to me, and I stole that, so thank you to whoever that was. Isn't that still the case? Now, defensively, yes, they have problems. There's no way around that. I'm not ready to say that teams are going to be able to duplicate what Vanderbilt did to Alabama consistently. I think that Alabama still has really good players on defense. We'll talk more about Bama a little bit later, but I'll say this. I think it was more of a scheme than personnel thing when you talk about Alabama and their defense. But overall, Alabama still have the best win in college football. I'd be surprised if they're not in the college football playoff, and right there in the mix for the SEC title. Georgia. Yes, the team who lost to Alabama last week, everyone after their win over Auburn is like, oh man, Georgia's just cruising right along. We said that after they lost to Bama, and everyone was ready to sell Georgia down the river. Not everybody, but some folks were like, hey, Georgia, not the same Georgia team we've seen over the last couple of years. That's true. I will say that's true. It's not the same makeup when it comes to these Georgia teams. I think it'll have the same script because we see this every year from Kirby Smart, man. We see this, and for some reason, every year we take the bait. Georgia starts a little bit slow. Now, they played Bama early in the year, so I think that allowed them to get got when they started slow, and we all saw that. But Georgia, Kirby Smart teams always play their best football win in November and in December. All right, now December, obviously, you got to win the SEC, and you didn't do that when it came to last year. But the bottom line is they're going to trend upward. I do think going back to like the makeup of this Georgia team, it's going to have to be a little bit more quarterback-driven in my mind. I think Stetson Bennett played really well within the system. I think Carson Beck will have to drive the system a little bit more because there is no Brock Bowers, there is no Ladd McConkey. Still some good weapons for Georgia on the perimeter, but I don't think they have necessarily what they've had over the course of the last couple of years in terms of like generational freak show tight ends. All right, so Georgia for me still in the playoff penthouse. It's funny the difference a week makes when it comes to the narrative. BYU, yep, BYU. JD, why do you have them here? Honestly, I don't know how you turn them away at this point, man. Like I don't know how you tell BYU you can't stay in the playoff penthouse. Right now, they're undefeated. Not just in Big 12 play. They're undefeated, period. They beat the brakes off of what I think may be the best Big 12 team in Kansas State. So if I'm BYU, I say, hey, glad to have you here. Wipe your feet as you walk in. You may not stay too long, but we're glad to have you here. Enjoy the playoff penthouse. Why don't you get yourself something out of the fridge? That's what I would say. So they're in the playoff penthouse right now. If you're saying, hey, Iowa State should be there instead of Kansas State, be my guest, but right now I think BYU has every right to the playoff penthouse. Miami's still in the playoff penthouse as well. And, I mean, if you stayed up till 1:30 or 2:30 watching that football game, you're at the right place. And you probably already watched this show because you're just a college football sicko. That game against Cal made you very nervous because it was very similar in a lot of ways to the slow start in the first half to the Virginia Tech game the week before. I think the spots are worth paying attention to. The Friday night, Vatek wanders in there with 2 losses. Got to go coast to coast. 10:30 Eastern kick for Miami. I guess it was 7:30 local if you were in Berkeley. The bottom line here is tough spots to play. Travel, Friday night, all those things. I still get the vibe now that Miami is very capable at this point of losing a football game. Those last 2 weeks have shown us that. The difference is when Miami wobbles a little bit, if they do go down, whenever they get back up, they're throwing haymakers. Cam Ward has the ability to put on the cape and JanSport them, backpack style, carry them on his back to a win. He's done that 2 weeks in a row. The thing that's scary now is I don't know that this Miami roster, all the portal pieces, have totally gelled just yet, excluding Cam Ward. Like, I think there's more under the hood talent-wise for this team. Once that all starts working, once it all connects, get the engine firing on all cylinders, then Miami, I think, could really be a problem. But honestly, they could drop a game, still feel pretty good about their chances to get to Charlotte, win the ACC, enjoy that bye. You're in the college football playoff. So I think Miami is definitely in the playoff penthouse as of right now. And I get that you're concerned about the last 2 weeks if you're saying they shouldn't be in there. But for me, let's just see how they respond off the bye. We'll learn a lot against Louisville. Clemson. Hey, good for Clemson being in here, baby. Good for Clemson being in the playoff penthouse. We've had them all over this graphic throughout the year. Don't look now. Clemson took that loss to Georgia and just have been slowly but surely surging. And Clemson's probably like, dude, shut up. Stop telling people about it. Like, hey, quiet down. We like not being talked about. We like flying under the radar. We're cool with the Roy bus, the rest of y'all, for those of y'all unprivy, if that's a word, to that acronym that Dabo Swinney likes to use. I have Clemson in this group because I think they're going to honestly run the table the rest of the way. As of right now, there's no reason to believe they wouldn't if they play their best football the way they've been playing it. Averaging 8 yards a pass, the offense is explosive. The Clemson defense is still the Clemson brand defense we talk about. Even if they get to the ACC title game and lose, if they're 11-1 and they're the ACC runner-up or the ACC champ, if they're the champ, they're obviously in. If they're the ACC runner-up at 11-1, they're still in the dance for my money. So right now, I think Clemson's got a little bit of margin to work with. No such thing as a good loss, but if you were going to lose, having it be to the number 1 team in the country, week 1, probably not a bad place to be. So that's the playoff penthouse as of right now, heading into week 7 of the college football season. Now, let's get down the elevator here and go check in what's going on in the lobby. And the lobby for us, for those of y'all that are new, it is essentially like the teams that are on the bubble. Could definitely see them get into the playoff penthouse. It's a couple of elevator buttons away. That's all it is. Got to get a key card to get clearance up there, but they're definitely still in the mix. And Oregon, if they go out and beat Ohio State this weekend, they will easily move from the lobby up to the penthouse. Not just that, they will have someone taking their bags up for them to the penthouse, all right? They beat Michigan State on a Friday night. Good deal. Sometimes you see Friday nights get a little bit weird, get a little bit quirky. Dylan Gabriel, couple of picks. You don't love that. They were in the red zone. It is what it is. The way that I feel about Oregon right now and why I don't have them in the playoff penthouse, even though they're undefeated, even though they've looked great the last 3 games, I felt like Oregon sort of borrowed money from me. And you know what I mean. Like going into the year, y'all, we were on the front lines saying, hey, how about Dan Lanning and those Ducks? Dan Lanning, man, he might be the next great coach in college football. He recruits at a certain level in their culture and the unit. Like I was drinking all the Kool-Aid, and I'm still drinking the Kool-Aid. I was guzzling it. Now I'm sort of sipping it, enjoying it more so. But I felt like we made a pretty strong deposit on what Oregon football would be. And so with the way the first 2 weeks went, I got concerned. Again, felt like they borrowed my money there. So the reason why I don't have them in the playoff penthouse right now, even with them being a top 5 team according to the rest of college football, I feel like they're still paying back their debt a little bit. Now, you go beat Ohio State. Again, you pay that debt off in full and then some. You got some credit to work with. Got some promo funds. However, need to see it in the lobby right now, waiting on the elevator. Oregon still in that mix. Speaking of borrow and trust, how about Ole Miss? I know the loss to Kentucky, it is what it is, but hey, bounce back in South Carolina. It's a good vibe. Y'all, you got to go to Baton Rouge, play in Death Valley at night. A lot of people go to Death Valley at night. Very few come out in terms, I shouldn't say people. That sounds kind of morbid. A lot of teams go to Death Valley at night and come out with a loss. LSU's been thinking about this one. Andy and Ari on 3 talked about it this morning on their show. Another reason to be subscribed. Playoff vibes all over it. I think Ole Miss has another gear, though. I really do. And I think in a spot like this now, with LSU back against the wall, playoff kind of atmosphere, it should be a playoff kind of volume if you walk into Death Valley in that game. As much as we talk about the talent for Ole Miss and we sort of excuse the culture variable for them, which is funny because of how often they go to the portal, Ole Miss has a culture, okay? And they actually talk about it a good bit. They talk about having the pro mindset. What does that mean? Handle business. Don't let the external variables factor in. It's a nameless, faceless opponent, to take Josh Heupel's verbiage. Like, that is who Ole Miss essentially claims to be. And it's funny, we kind of excuse culture when it comes to Ole Miss. We talk about it like it doesn't really matter for them. Y'all, culture, make no mistake about it, is going to be what allows Ole Miss to get to where they want to go. I think culture is a big reason why they were able to hit the reset button and go to Willie B and get a dub. Culture is the reason why, if they go beat LSU at LSU, after Brian Kelly's got a full week to prep for them, it will be a culture thing. Because I think talent only gets you so far. We talk about that. Talent gets you in the door. Culture allows you to kick it down and go do something with it. So if Ole Miss achieves the level of success they want to achieve, give Lane Kiffin credit, yes, for the roster, maybe even more so for culture and being able to respond from a loss, go into a hostile environment 2 weeks in a row now and get a dub. Penn State probably feels like they should be in the playoff penthouse, and if you feel that way, I get you. All right? Hey, I understand. And honestly, if you made a strong case against me and pushed back, who am I to disagree? I mean, it's our hotel playoff, so I guess that gives us some right to disagree. Suffocated UCLA. Absolutely it wasn't something you want to watch in the fourth quarter. Now, it wasn't always that way from start to finish, but it ended up being that way. The thing with me with Penn State is, like, you got USC this week. Got to go to USC. This game lacks some luster now that it had during the first parts of the year. Because USC beats LSU, and we're like, oh boy, baby, October 12th, Penn State going to the Collie. Can't wait for that one. That'll be a good time. And now USC, having also lost to Minnesota and Michigan, they are more than likely out of the college football playoff equation. They do not currently have a reservation at hotel playoff. Spoiler alert. The thing I want to see from Penn State before we move them up into the penthouse, I want to see them look like the bully that I think they're supposed to be. Because look at the rankings, man. Like, Penn State is the second best team in the Big Ten. That's not me like saying that as an opinion. That's what the rest of the polls are telling you. Penn State's a top 5 team in America right now. And so if you're going to be the bully, you do bully things. You go into somebody else's place. You go beat a Lincoln Riley offense. You go beat a Lincoln Riley defense, maybe more importantly. And you go take the life from them. That's what you should do if you're a Penn State football team. If you're the Penn State bully that we've talked about. And you know how I think they're the bully? It's because they lined up an offensive lineman at slot receiver, brought him in motion, and then took the soul of a UCLA defensive end. Not an outside defensive end. My dude was wearing a number in the 90s, and he just absolutely took his breath from him. That's a bully move. I want to see that against USC before I move Penn State up. Texas A&M, welcome to the party, baby. Hey, no, you don't have to wait for a reservation right now. You're in the lobby. You're trying to get up to the playoff penthouse. Why? Because they absolutely just took Missouri to school and got them another degree. So shouts to Missouri for another degree. Good for y'all. It pays to have more degrees these days, from what I hear. Big boyed Missouri, and everyone's going to talk about the loss to Notre Dame. Y'all, the loss to Notre Dame, I don't think it's looking great, but it's Notre Dame's doing their thing. They haven't lost since then. They beat a good Louisville team. I think they have as navigable a path as anybody to the college football playoff, does Texas A&M. If they go 10-2 with only a loss to a top 10 team, and then they lose to, call it Texas at the end of the year, and I know you hate that if you're an A&M fan. I get it. Don't worry. I understand. Say Texas is a top 3 team in America. Say Texas is the best team in America when you play them. In your loss to a top 10 Notre Dame and a loss to Texas, I think you're in the college football playoff. We talk about it a lot. Got to walk the tightrope here. Got to avoid the grenades from South Carolina on the road and going to Auburn. I get that. You got LSU still. But I'm just saying, if you go 10-2, you're going to be in good shape. And honestly, I know everyone's talking so much around, the Notre Dame loss. I think the Missouri win, when you 30-piece a team, that comes into your place as a top 10 team, I think that should atone for the Notre Dame loss. I really do. Not saying that you view them as an undefeated team right now, but I do think with the way that A&M is playing football, running for over 200 yards, holding the opposition to less than 100, it's a real deal Texas A&M defensive line. That is a real deal rushing attack. If the quarterback can do what Connor Wegman did, whether it's him or Marcel Reed going forward, and I would fully expect it to be Connor Wegman, just so we're all aligned there, A&M's going to have a shot. They are going to be in the mix for the college football playoff. Mark my words. One more team to talk about here in the lobby. Man, it's a great basketball movie. How about the Hoosiers? Indiana, baby, in the lobby. Indiana just hanging out there. They beat Northwestern last week on a bye this week. They're quietly undefeated. They have not scored less than 30 all year long. They have not scored less than 40 since their first game. So Indiana, man, I get it. The path may not be the most direct to the college football playoff. It may not be the logo that we all expected to see when we look at these projected 12-team playoffs. But Indiana, you can't keep them out of the lobby for my money right now. So keep an eye on the Hoosiers. They're in the mix. They are firmly in the mix. And again, I mean, call a spade a spade. Like, this is a wild thing to say. The Fighting Signettis, if they win the rest of their games, they're obviously in the college football playoff. They control their own destiny. How about that? Imagine Indiana playing a home game in Lucas Oil for the Big Ten championship against, I don't know, call it Ohio State or Oregon. I'm just saying. It is what it is. So those are the teams in the lobby right now. Let's go check out the people waiting for a reservation. In hotel school, which, again, is what I went to school for, believe it or not, they talk a lot about how to appropriately walk a guest. And not like physically like take a guest on a walk. Like there's a lot of times now where someone shows up to your front desk and they're like, hey, I had a reservation. You're like, ooh, sorry, we actually overbooked. And you have to get them a reservation somewhere else, or they have to wait on a reservation. So who are those teams right now in the college football playoff landscape? I think LSU is one of those teams without question. And we keep saying this with LSU. I don't have an issue with the team itself. The path is what's so hard for me to get behind. Well, they have a chance now to take a massive step forward on their path. They got Ole Miss this week at home. We talked about what it means for Ole Miss. If LSU beats Ole Miss, I'll say this. They jump back in the lobby. How about that? Maybe you don't have the reservation that you wanted, but you're in a better position now to feel a little bit more comfortable in your chances to make the college football playoff. Still have Oklahoma. Still got to go to the Swamp. Still got to go to Arkansas, which looks different than it did a few weeks ago. But LSU, we'll see. We'll see. Also, they have to have Bama come play them as well. And Bama looks a lot more beatable as well after last week. But LSU waiting on a resi as of right now. Also waiting on a reservation. Notre Dame off a bye, hosting Stanford this week. I mean, if I'm Notre Dame, man, I got some friends that are Notre Dame fans. This is what I would tell them. I ain't hear no bell. Yeah, the NIU loss sucks. Yeah, it's embarrassing. Yeah, it's not fun having Scott Van Pelt talk about you on SportsCenter and talk about, what you didn't do and how you lost to a G5 team and all that. But I ain't hear no bell. Notre Dame, if they run the table the rest of the way, they're in the college football playoff. Now, here's the thing for Notre Dame. I think you got to add a little bit of sauce here. Got to add a little bit of sauce here the rest of the way. Because look at the schedule, man. We thought there was going to be some flag plant moments for them. Like we thought, hey, Florida State, if they can beat Florida State, amazing. They can beat USC. I actually tweeted out, embarrassingly enough, earlier, or I guess at the end of last week, I said, hey, USC Notre Dame will be for a playoff spot. They'll meet in Los Angeles. It'll be in the Coliseum. It'll be a playoff atmosphere, and they're playing for the last playoff spot. That probably will not happen. USC, for my money, staring down the barrel of a third loss. So going back to what I said, I think you got to add a little bit of sauce. You got to, I think, not only run the table, but you got to run the table with a little bit of style points to feel better about your chances. Now, 11-1 Notre Dame, they're in the playoff. Got to keep cooking. Got to keep cooking. Offense makes me nervous. Defense is great. Offense makes me nervous with Riley Leonard, but we'll see. We'll see. Tennessee, yep, I know. From the penthouse to now saying, can I get a reservation? I get it. The reason why you're here and not in the lobby, the reason why you dropped a whole tier in this discussion. Upset by Arkansas. It is what it is. It's not fatal, but you still have to play Alabama and you have to play Georgia. So before, those were the two losses. In theory, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're looking at before the season, doing the whole win-loss thing, trying to piece together a playoff run. Those were the two games you said, if we drop these, win the rest of them, we're in at 10-2. And I agree. Now you definitely have to split. Now you do have technically two ranked wins to your name over Oklahoma and NC State. NC State was ranked when you played them in on this show, we freeze wins at least. The offense has got to find a new gear. They have to. Now, if they continue to look the way they looked against Arkansas, and Arkansas is a good defensive line, I don't know that they are the best defense you're going to see the rest of the way. In fact, I know they're not, based on what Georgia is. You have to find a way to be able to stretch the field. Because Nico Iamaleava has not thrown for over 200 yards in some time now. Okay, I think NC State was the last time he did it. Need to see some more juice offensively. Now, as much as that's frustrating, if it truly is just about pulling the trigger for Nico Iamaleava, if that's all we're talking about here, letting it rip a little bit more, feeling comfortable and confident to let it rip, I think the good news if you're a Tennessee fan is this staff in Knoxville, I believe, has the correct personality, which sounds funny to say, to be able to empower him to cut it loose. Like, one, Josh Heupel's a quarterback whisperer. He's not just saying, hey, this is what I think you should do. He's like, no, hey, this is what I did as a quarterback to help me be successful. Here's what I can tell you. That's beneficial. Two, just the personality of Josh Heupel, where he's like, to me, he's got a cut it loose mentality about himself. It's a quiet confidence, but overall, like, when you feel empowered as a player to go ball out, you're going to be able to play a little bit more free. So it sounds sort of philosophical, as Will Compton would say, sort of a sleeper assessment, but I think that's the case. And if Nico can pull the trigger and they can create those plays downfield, all bets are off. Tennessee's thinking playoff again, and they find themselves in the college football playoff penthouse. Now, one more sector of this we got to talk about, and it's not just one team. Whenever we request these logos the day before, or request these graphics with the logos on them the day before, obviously I'm saying, hey, can we get a Kansas State logo here? Can we get an Alabama logo here? And we're sort of sorting out the playoff penthouse, or the hotel playoff, if you will. Waiting for a reservation, I just said, can we get a Big 12 logo in that section? Can we just get a Big 12 logo in there? Because it's madness. And for those of y'all that know me, I have a fascination with gorillas, which means that I have a fascination with the movie series Planet of the Apes. And there is, I think it's not the most recent movie, but the movie prior to the most recent one, where one of the apes does the, oh no, and that kind of went viral on social media. That clip, that meme, I guess you would say, perfectly encapsulates where we are right now in the Big 12. You look at what's going on out there, you say, oh no, oh no, oh no. Why? Because we have a bunch of teams now that are all just myrtleizing each other for a spot in the college football playoff. Let me read you the teams with 0 conference losses. Remember now, BYU is up there in the penthouse. No losses. Also, you got Iowa State with no conference losses. You got Colorado with no conference losses, Coach Prime and company. Texas Tech, no conference losses. West Virginia, no conference losses. So we're doing the math here. They can't all finish with no conference losses. All right, and more specifically, with that being the case, I don't think that we're going to find a situation where more than one team from the Big 12 makes the college football playoff. So that's the team with no conference losses. Here are the teams with one conference loss. Kansas State, who I think might be the best team in the Big 12. Arizona State, Arizona, Cincinnati, and UCF. Oh, no, that's how it feels. I'm just telling you, that's how it feels. Those teams all waiting on a reservation. BYU right now in the penthouse, but a lot of teams going to be in the mix for the Big 12 there. We'll pat ourselves on the back, too. We had Texas Tech before the year started. In Jerry World, that's still intact. They're still there with 0 conference losses, are the Fighting Joey Maguires. Let's check in on the G5 party, man. Ain't no party like a G5 party. They got Grove Street just blaring out of the Huey boom or whatever speaker they want to use out there. Boise State, currently the lead dog, if you ask me. Ashton Genty, a walking highlight reel. There was a hilarious thing on social media going around yesterday of Ashton Genty in the backfield and then a side-by-side picture of Michael Mayer and saying Ashton Genty just kills people. He's been killing defenses. It is what it is. I think you have every right to have him in your Heisman conversation. I think right now he's actually the betting favorite to win the Heisman. That's another discussion for another time. They just I don't even know what – I was going to say tromped. I don't think tromp's a word. They trotted it over. They destroyed Utah State, all right? They go to Hawaii this week. Boise State's got a one-loss on their resume that's to a top 5 Oregon team right now. 3 points, like Boise State, lead dog. UNLV, yep, still in the mix. Still in the mix. Like an Elton John song, man, still standing. They're still standing. They lost to Syracuse in overtime, to our Syracuse Orange on this very show. At Utah State this week, It all comes down to that game against Boise State on a Friday night, a little bit later this month. UNLV still in the mix. You hate they caught that L, but still in the mix. Liberty, they beat FIU last night in overtime. Quick discussion on Liberty. Andy Staples, before the year started, he made several predictions, one of which being Liberty is going to be undefeated and then be left out of the college football playoff. And I was like, whoa, okay. I mean, like, Andy's one of the GOATs in this space, but I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. If they go undefeated and they get left out of the college football playoff, like, would there not be riots on Liberty's campus? As this thing unfolds, I think Andy's exactly on the money. I don't think Liberty's going to lose a game. I also think if you put them in over Boise State, you're taking crazy pills. Or put them in over UNLV. You're nuts. You're off your rocker. So Liberty, I don't know if they're going to have too much meat on the bone when it comes to their resume. It's great to be undefeated, but when you play like the equivalent of Yale every week, I don't have much for you here. Caden Salter looking awesome, but they got to find a way here to add some style of points to the rest of their schedule here if they want to find a way in the dance. Now, you know who really wins when we talk about the G5? And I've got some buddies at these different schools that have been on me, and I get it. Been getting after me and saying, hey, put us in this hotel playoff. What are you doing? Yo, Army and Navy, man. America is winning right now in the college football space. Both undefeated. And, I mean, Army just blasted Tulsa, about to host UAB. Navy beat the brakes off Air Force. Little academy on academy crime there. They're on a bye this week. There is a scenario now. I don't think it will happen, but just dream with me because it's intact right now. There is a scenario. Army and Navy meet for the conference title. Okay, they play. That's a chance to make the college football playoff in some sense. Okay, I think if you're undefeated, you win the American, you're probably in the dance. They play for the conference title, and then the next week play Army-Navy, the rivalry game. Because remember, that rivalry game always happens after conference title weekend. That would be bizarre. That would be mental gymnastics. That would be chaos. That would be awesome. Imagine that Navy beats Army to secure the conference championship, and then they turn around the next week and Army beats them. Just for the bragging rights. I mean, I don't know how the bragging rights would work there, but Army and Navy, America's winning. Greatest country in the world, both those schools in the G5 party without question. Don't think they'll both be undefeated by the end of the season, just so we're on the same page, but let's dream a little bit. Let's live a little bit. It's a lot of fun. So, deep breath in, deep breath out, because we talked a lot there, but let's make sense of who we have where right now in hotel playoff. Where are we sitting right now? In the penthouse, you got Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, BYU. Don't get comfortable, BYU. Enjoy this. Don't get comfortable, but you're in the penthouse. Miami and Clemson. All, I think, right now, you can make a very strong case for feeling good about your college football playoff aspirations. Again, BYU, not to throw shade, but just like, the Big 12's madness. Good luck out there. In the lobby, Oregon with a chance to move up if they do beat the Buckeyes in Autzen this weekend. Ole Miss, if they make the run they want to make to the college football playoff, it will be about culture, the pro mindset, funny enough. Penn State, want to see you be the bully this weekend. If you are the bully, go prove it against USC. They are in the lobby. Texas A&M, navigable path. And Indiana, man, not a basketball school. No. They're a football school out there in Bloomington. Waiting on a reservation. LSU, Notre Dame, Tennessee, and the entirety of the Big 12 to me is just like that Planet of the Apes scene. Oh, no. I don't know. Best of luck to everyone out there trying to figure that out. And then the G5 party, Boise State, Army and Navy. Gosh dang it, love America. UNLV and Liberty all just hanging out. Vibing out to Little Grove Street. It's a party, it's a party, it's a party.